We've all heard stories from the golden age of piracy, right? You know, a time when guys like Blackbeard and Calico Jack were the terror of the seas. But there's another name, one that's a little more mysterious, part history, part ghost story.
And that's the big question we're diving into today. What really happened to one of the most notorious pirates who ever lived?
So this is her, Anne Bonny, a name that sailors once feared. She was captured, tried, and sentenced to death by hanging. Simple enough, right? But here's the thing. She never made it to the gallows. Her story doesn't end. It just stops. Okay, so let's get into it. To even begin to understand how a condemned pirate could just vanish, we have to go back and figure out who she was, a woman who, from day one, seemed to break every single rule. Anne's life started out, well, complicated. She was born in Ireland sometime around 1700, the illegitimate daughter of a well-off lawyer and his own maid. To get away from the scandal, her father packed them all up and moved to a plantation near what's now Charleston, South Carolina. So right from the get-go, her life was anything but conventional. And apparently, from a really young age, she had a fiery temper. Now, we should take these stories with a grain of salt. A lot of them come from this old book that was known for, spicing things up. But even if the stories are exaggerated, they paint a picture of a young woman who was not going to be told what to do. In a world that gave women like her very few choices, this was her way of taking control. And that rebellious spirit really defined her entire life. She could have had it easy, but no, she threw it all away. She married a poor sailor named James Bonny, which made her father so angry he disowned her completely. And from there, the two of them headed straight for Nassau, the most infamous pirate den in the world. Her path was set. So, here she is, a disowned daughter living in a pirate heaven. How does she go from that to becoming one of the most legendary pirates of all time? Well, it happens pretty fast. In the rowdy taverns of Nassau, surrounded by the most wanted men on the seas, Anne's life took a hard right turn. She left her husband, who had actually become an informant for the government, and took up with the flashy, charismatic pirate captain John Rackham, better known as Calico Jack. You know, it's wild when you look at the timeline. Her entire career as a pirate was just a flash in the pan, a little over a year and a half of terrorizing the Caribbean. They stole a ship in April 1719, and by November 1720, it was all over. She was captured, tried, and sentenced to hang. All that legend packed into just a few short months. But during that brief, violent career, something happened that sounds like it was ripped straight out of a screenplay. Another woman joined the crew. A new sailor came on board, a really capable guy who called himself Mark Reed. And Anne, well, she apparently became quite infatuated with him. So she decides to let Mark in on her own secret. But it turns out Mark had an even bigger one. To get close to him, Anne reveals that she's a woman. And in one of the craziest twists in pirate lore, Mark responds by revealing that he is actually Mary Reed, another woman who'd been dressing as a man her whole life to survive. Can you imagine? From that moment on, the two of them became this inseparable, unstoppable force. But this amazing partnership, this story of two female pirates ruling the seas together, was about to come to a very, very abrupt end. So November 1720, their ship gets ambushed by pirate hunters off the coast of Jamaica. The attack was a total surprise, and the story goes that Calico Jack and the rest of the male pirates were, well, they were completely drunk and basically useless. As the authorities swarmed the deck, only two members of the crew actually put up a fight. I think you can guess who. Yep, Anne Bonny and Mary Reed. The two of them fought like hell with pistols and swords, trying to hold off the entire boarding party all by themselves. And we know for a fact they were fighting, thanks to this incredible piece of testimony from their trial. A witness, Dorothy Thomas, said she knew they were women, and I quote, by the largeness of their breasts. I mean, what a detail to have from the historical record, right? It just confirms how hands-on they were. Calico Jack, of course, was quickly sentenced to hang. He asked to see Anne one last time, probably hoping for some comfort. He didn't get it. Her last words to him were just absolutely brutal. And that quote, that just tells you everything you need to know about her character. Fearless and with zero patience for cowardice. So this brings us right back to the central mystery. Calico Jack was hanged. The crew was hanged. Mary Read died in prison. So how on earth did Anne Bonny pull off the ultimate escape? Well, it all started with this amazing legal loophole called pleading the belly. After they were sentenced to die, both Anne and Mary told the court they were pregnant. And because English law at the time saw an unborn child as innocent, it meant their executions had to be postponed until after they gave birth. This bought them some time. Tragically, Mary Read caught a fever in prison and died. But Anne Bonny, she just vanishes. After that stay of execution, the historical paper trail just goes completely cold. So, what happened to her? We're left with a bunch of theories. Did her rich father bribe someone to get her out? Is there a record of an Anne Bonny dying in a Jamaican prison years later that could be her? Did she somehow get a fresh start, get married, and live a long, quiet life in Virginia? We just don't know for sure. And that's where history ends, and the legend really takes over. And in the end, we're left with that question. Did Anne Bonny meet a quiet, anonymous end behind bars? Or did the woman who broke every rule she ever came across manage to pull off one last impossible escape, disappearing into the world to write a new ending for herself? We'll probably never know.